All right, welcome into Carps Corner. It's game day. It is New Year's Eve. It is December 31st. I hate the fact the game is today. I wish the fact that the semifinals were tomorrow. We've had some great college football, a lot of terrific matchups that have happened over the course of the last couple of weeks. It's been entertaining. It's been fun. The Big Ten has actually played pretty well. What does that mean? No one really knows anymore. Who knows who's playing in those games? But I do know this. It means that the guys that are playing in them, it matters a lot to them. They care a lot about those games. And your GSF, your give a crap factor, substitute the S for a C there, that matters a lot in football. It matters in sports. It matters in life. And so when you care about things, you're going to be heavily invested in them. I believe that this Ohio State team cares mightily about winning this game. Has Mayan Williams, how much does he play? How effective is he ultimately? That remains to be seen. Battled the knee, had surgery during the year. He's been sick. We'll see what happens. I feel fully confident in Dallin Hayden and Chip Trainum if they need to be out there, because I think Chip showed me a lot, and Dallin runs really hard. Not the biggest dude in the world, but runs hard. And I believe he's a Tennessee guy, so you know that he's going to want to get involved in this tilt versus an SEC school. So I feel pretty good about that. The reality is Ohio State's going to butter its bread with the wide receivers on offense. It's going to need big games from Marvin. It's going to need a big game from Emeka Ibuka. It's going to need a big game from Julian Fleming. I think Xavier Johnson, I think those are some of the guys who there could be matchups where you feel like you have an advantage. Your third and fourth receiver over whoever the nickel backs that Georgia will be bringing in the game. And then another guy, I think Cade Stover, another big matchups. And it was talked about. Greg McElroy addressed this on his podcast. College football now is like the NFL. If you can create matchups for your guys, positive matchups, you have a heck of a chance of being able to win if you have guys who can go and win in those situations. Ohio State has those guys. The last piece is being able to protect CJ Stroud. You've got a really good defensive line, but Ohio State has 5 all-conference NFL caliber offensive linemen. They have 2 talented tackles and 3 guys that are pretty good inside. This is as healthy as you're going to be after a couple weeks. So you got to go out there and you got to be able to play. You got to be able to play tough. There's everything Ohio State needs on the offensive side of the ball to go out here and win this thing. Couple of offensive key metrics I want to get into. Talked about this. My dad pointed this out. 4 first downs on the ground for CJ Stroud. And they don't have to be 20-yard runs. Heck, they can be 4 and 5. You don't even have to get hit. But keeping the chains moving, keeping those drives alive, keeping that Georgia offense on the sideline, defense on the field, and allowing to have some of those drives. That's the only way you'll be able to sustain drives against Georgia. Now, you're not going to be able to sustain a ton because they're really good defensively, especially up front. So I think you need 2 touchdowns of 30-plus yards or more by hook or by crook. You talk about runs, most likely they're going to be passes on the outside. But Georgia's really good in the red zone, and it's really tough to drive the ball consistently down the field. You're going to need some drives, but I think ultimately you're going to have to be able to have some shots in there. 2, 3 would be even better, but I like 2. I think you're going to need at least 6 explosive gains. Ideally, you'd be 8. That's usually a 12 to 15-yard run or a plus 20 pass. To get those chunks on some of those drives, that's going to be critical. It will be key for that to happen. And then I think you've got to run the ball for 80 yards. I would say 100, but I don't think that's going to be where the focus is. If you start throwing it that well, maybe it'll open up and you'll be able to run the football inside, but you have to keep this Georgia front honest. They cannot. Will Muschamp will tee off on you. They will start getting pressure if they think that you're just abandoning running the football. So you have to be able to sneak those runs in there and find a way to get 80 yards. And heck, some of those can be with CJ Stroud and his opportunity to be able to do this. Looking at the defensive side, got to make sure that you contain their 2 tight ends the best you can. Darnell Washington and then Brock Bowers, who is the guy that they're going to lean on. Ladd McConkey's going to be out there. They're one wide receiver, number 84. I mean, he's one of the best playmakers that they have on offense. They move him all around with motions and all kinds of stuff. And he's a favorite of Stetson Bennett. So there's that aspect of it. Oh, goodness. And you're going to have to find a way to slow the run down. They cannot just lean on you and bludgeon you up and down the field, 4.5+ yards a carry. You're going to have some that get out the gate, but you have to have some negative yardage battles in there as well. And then, so for this, defensively, the key metrics, 5 turnovers or 5 3 and outs. I believe you have to have 5 3 and outs if you're Ohio State, to give yourself time to get the ball back in advantageous field position, get the defense off the field, get them rested. 4 is okay. 5 would be ideal. You need to force at least 1 turnover. And with that being said, you need to win the turnover battle as well. So force at least 1 turnover, win the turnover battle. I would say no big plays. When I say that, I mean no shot calls, just over your head, massive touchdowns, things where you're chasing guys down. That can't happen. You can have give up some explosive gains. You're going to. Brock Bowers is going to make some plays. They're going to have some long runs. Stetson Bennett might pull it down with his feet and do some stuff with his feet. And that's another thing. Someone talked about that as well. That I was talking to Andy Staples today. His ability to pull it down and anticipate maybe some zone read where he runs the ball a little more, which he hasn't really done a ton this year. But Stetson Bennett is a good athlete. Not the biggest dude in the world, but he is a very solid and impressive athlete. So keep that in mind. And that's why I think a guy who you don't get a lot of pressure on him because their O-line is so good. They run the ball so effectively and he moves around well. If you can get 2 sacks on Bennett, you get some negative yardage plays. That'll help feed into those 3 and outs. It'll help make sure you don't give up the home runs. You're going to give up the explosive gains. Like I said, just tackle them and make them line up and go score on you in the red zone. Some themes that were talked about. Ryan Day has been hammering the opportunity. All the players that I talked to down there at Media Day, opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. And even the Georgia players talk about that. And that's how you eliminate the pressure of a game like this. It's not about going out and winning a national championship and the pressure that you feel from that. It's about knowing you have an opportunity to do something special because that gives you the ability to play fast. It gives you the ability to play loose and to go be your very best. And so the opportunity element of this, that's big. Ryan talked about being down in enemy territory. It's going to be a pro-Georgia crowd, at least 60%, maybe as much as 70%. The 30 to 40% of Buckeye fans in attendance need to be loud when they have the opportunity, and they need to try to push some of that energy into their squad. I think they can. I think they have that ability. We need to be able to get that done, the Buckeye Nation. I'm not a huge gambler in this, but the line has been around 6.5, 7 points most of the time. And that's where it stayed, and I thought it would move, and it did move late, and it's moved today, just before I threw this on when I was doing my XM show. The line dropped down to 5.5, so it dropped about a whole point towards Ohio State. That usually means smart money's coming in late. It did the same thing for Bama against Kansas State. Now, Kansas State started off fast. Bama's caught up. It's going to be a dogfight of a game. I think this will be the same thing. It happened also against Michigan, where late money came in on Ohio State. Ohio State had the chance to pull away on Michigan. They could have a chance to pull a little bit on Georgia. If you get a chance to get a 14-point lead, you need to convert and you have to open it up. But that smart money coming in is looking at these potential matchups, thinking that Ohio State, if they execute and play really well, have the opportunity to be able to score a lot of points. LSU threw for 400 or 500 yards. Now, it was when the game wasn't in doubt anymore. And LSU, Georgia had already run that thing up in the SEC championship, but there are plays to be had against this defense in the back end. You have to be able to convert. I believe LSU also had a blocked extra point or a blocked field goal in there. You cannot have any special teams miscues. That has to be eliminated. That cannot be the case. So I look at something that Kevin Wilson said when I was talking to him on Media Day. He talked about it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a fist fight. Preparing your players for that, understanding this is going to be a 4-quarter game. Ohio State hadn't been in a whole lot of 4-quarter games all year. And the one team that has is TCU. And so they've been in a lot of slobber knockers. They understand that, you're not going to be sitting on the bench with your pads undone, start of the 4th quarter. You've got to play it hard and play all the time. And in doing that, it mentally prepares you. It hardens your mind. You have to be mentally prepared coming into this game and knowing that Georgia's going to try to pound the football on you. It is going to be tough. It is going to be physical. And if you're going to win, you might only be winning when the clock strikes 000. That's the type of game this could ultimately be. So it's going to be all on fist fight, a slugfest, whatever it is. Kevin has tried to prepare his offensive line for it, knowing that they're going to be blocking one of the best defensive lines in all of football. Then Ryan echoed a couple things. Opportunity and adversity. It's You're going to handle adversity. You're going to see it in life. You're going to see it in sports. You're going to see it in football. Handling of that adversity is how you're able to define yourself. You use it with this opportunity. They got the opportunity. It was like life was breathed back into them. And with it now, how do you handle that Michigan game? How do you handle that loss? Did you examine enough? Did you prepare hard enough? Are you locked in to be able to have success? And then also handling adversity within this game, which we'll get to in a minute. But then Ryan also talked about being aggressive. And that doesn't mean you're out there foolish, shot, down the field, pass, going for it on 4th and 8. But being aggressive and being calculated with your decisions and when you script your first 10 to 15 plays, how you call the game, how aggressive you are on the defensive side of the ball, what plays you call on offense. On a 3rd and 1, do you take a shot down the field knowing you might go for it on 1st or on 4th down? When you get in the red zone, do you take shots? When you cross the 50, do you take shots? All of those different things. That all factors into being aggressive. And then it's the aggressive mentality of your players, taking it to them. So the coach says you're going to be aggressive. They've got to back it up with their calls and how they operate and what you're prepared for. And then as a player, you've got to go out there and try to dictate the tempo to your opposition. And that's going to be big because like the last piece of this is the handling of adversity. It will happen in the game. There'll be an opportunity where Ohio State goes 3 and out. Georgia has a big play. Maybe Georgia scores a touchdown. Ohio State goes 3 and out. You cannot let a mistake or two just snowball and get on top of you. The leaders of the team on defense, the Zach Harrisons, the Tommy Eichenbergs, the Ronnie Hickmans, that's where those guys, they have to stand up. The Teron Vincent, you have to be a lighthouse in the storm when things are going rough. CJ Stroud has to be a lighthouse in the storm. He has to stand up and say, no mas. This is how it's going down. This is how we're going to play. We're going to huddle up, know how to attack them, and go put together the best drive we're going to have, or go put together the best defensive set we're going to have. They need that leadership. And the offensive guys can be kind of quiet, but they need those guys to stand up and understand that it's going to come in this game. You cannot avoid it. It is unavoidable, and you have to embrace it because it will happen. As we've watched it happen in some of the bowl games already, it will happen against Michigan and TCU. There's a point where a game can turn, and Michigan against Ohio State, they stood there, they took the punches, and then they ultimately swung back. That's what ultimately needs to happen. That's it. No magic, no pixie dust, no fairy dust that needs to be sprinkled around. That's how this game needs to look. And it's New Year's Eve. I think Ohio State has a great opportunity to win. I'll take them 38-34. They hold them maybe a couple field goals, score some points. This game needs to reside in the 30s. The higher it gets in the 30s, the better I feel about it. But this defense, I know, will go out and get stops because they were gashed and they didn't like it. Good tackling team. They'll get back to that. They'll make plays. They're going to give some up, but they'll make them too. So that's it for this edition of Carps Corner. Thank you for tuning in. I know it's brief. Getting you ready for the game. It's going to be a good one. I have a great feeling about this. And with 6 minutes left, all you can ask for is a chance to go out and win. Got to make the plays, get stops, get scores. And that's it. So subscribe, like, comment, and hopefully the next one I'll be doing, we'll be talking about the Buckeyes' victory in the Peach Bowl, and then ultimately as they travel out to SoFi Stadium to take on who knows at that point. So thanks for tuning in. We'll talk soon.